Hey, hi, how are you? My name's Felt, and welcome back to another edition of Yoshi Keeps Me Employed. This time brought to you by Patch Notes. This is Gameplay Update 04/30/2026. Apparently, this is a small update, and I'm not sure I believe that, but it's supposedly a small update. It's kind of cool that they're posting these actually on the Steam page now. They used to only be on the forums. It's kind of a nice change. Anyways, let's start by talking about General. Base health per boon reduced by 7. So we're just flat nerfing everyone's tankiness. You know what? That's fine. That's fine. Just flat health reduction across the board. I'm pretty okay with that. We've been in a pretty tanky meta. However, I will say I immediately noticed that Vitality investment bonus increased from 8, 10, 13, 17 to 9, 12, 15, 20. But then it's 34, 38, 42, 39, 44, 46, 50 from 48, 56 from 52. It's a general increase across the board that scales up all the way to the end. However, this is technically a little worse because of the base health per boon being reduced by a flat 7. Since they changed the vitality investment bonuses back to percentiles, mathematically, this is doing less because everyone has a little bit less base health, but this does buff items like Colossus and Fortitude, so don't be surprised to see that. Weapon investment bonus rescaled from 7 to 135 to 9 to 115. Oh boy. 20% less weapon damage at the top end. That's a sizable gun nerf. I don't think that this will affect most games, considering what? 7, 9, 13, 20, 49, 60, 9, 12, 15, 18, 46, 55. It's 5% here. This is where the breakpoint kind of is. It goes from 60 to 55. That's the biggest change so far. And it's 80 down to 70, 95 to 85, 115 to 100, and 135 to 115. Overall, a pretty solid nerf to weapon investment scaling, but this doesn't affect the 4.8k spike all that much, it seems, if I'm remembering where the breakpoints are. I'm pretty sure that this is like around the 4.8k. I think this jump is the 3200 to 4.8k spike. So it doesn't really affect that much. 3% less weapon damage if all you're getting is your 4.8k spike is not that big of a deal. However, this does nerf gun carries at their top end by a lot. Reduced bullet damage growth by 10% for the following heroes. Bebop, Pocket, Viper. They nerfed our gun bop already. Pocket, aka the Glocket, getting a nerf too. That's a little sad for them. And Viper, because Viper is kind of a menace at Eternus Plus, this kind of makes sense. And then 5% bullet growth down for Victor. I guess they don't want the Victor with a gun to live. However, Moan Krill and Apollo got a 10% growth buff. Woohoo, go them. That's not really that exciting. But, you know, we'll take small buffs to Moan Krill and Apollo. They're not that oppressive at the moment. Moan Krill's annoying, and as is Apollo, but they're not, like, oppressive. Guardians, Base Guardians, and Trans now have 10% bullet. Yeah. Yeah, you know, gun heroes, they're kind of good right now, so this makes sense. And walkers have an extra 15% bullet res. Yeah, all of this is a result of the fact that we were in a pretty gun-dominant meta, and this is a pretty okay change to try and drag gun heroes down a little bit. Medic troopers heal 2% less, and the region growth per minute got reduced a little. So medic troopers aren't going to massively heal you as much as they used to, but that's not really a big deal. Medic troopers have been a little overtuned, to be honest. If you get 2 back-to-back, they basically full heal you in the mid to late game. Getting knocked off bounce pads sends you downward quickly rather than continuing the trajectory. So in case y'all don't know, this getting knocked off a bounce pad hyperlines you the same way that getting knocked off a zipline would, but the trajectory and the momentum you had hopping on the bounce pad would continue and just send you flying in the same direction. This is now going to send you to the ground and make it so that if you're hopping on a bounce pad and you get shot, you're probably dead. So you need to be a little more careful about it, especially around like 5-minute buffs. Souls required for boons after 13.2, 15, and 17k plus 2k per boon. Oh, it went down to 13.2, 14.5, and plus 1.5k per boon. Oh, so max boons is now at 40k souls instead of 49k souls. This seems to just be kind of a cleaning up of how you get boons so that people get stronger faster. This does mean that build crafting is probably going to change a little bit, because this means that you're going to hit spikes of maxing abilities sooner than you used to by a little bit, but probably not a ton. It's just overall shrinking it, which means that quote-unquote full builds will now be around 40k instead of 49k, so you're probably going to see some build rebalancing if people are paying attention to patch notes. Fixed alt fire scaling for Yamato and Viscous not working recently. Cool. We like that. Alright, item change time. Added a new T4 Vitality item, Indomitable. Upgrades from Reactive Barrier, cool. Causes the next stun chain, immobilize, sleep, or silence, all the stuff that Reactive Barrier triggered from, I believe, from players to be automatically removed. This is the same as an item from Street Brawl, isn't it? There was an item from Street Brawl that would just like automatically cleanse your next hard CC that you got hit by. When this happens, you gain a barrier, probably similar to the Reactive Barrier one, and all your ability cooldowns are reduced by 20%. That's better for people with high ultimate cooldowns and less good for people with very survivable abilities, but it's a plus side. Only every 55 seconds, so only once a minute, meaning that you'll only get, this means that you'll get to immune every Dynamo ult if you only get hit by Dynamo ults, but like, you can get shoulder charged by Abrams, wait a second, and then they shoulder charge you again and take you out, right? 8% bullet resistance and 8% spirit resist just makes it a little bit tankier of an item. Not bad. Pretty cool. This seems to be like they took the idea from one of their Street Brawl items, and then they put it into the main game, which I'm super fine with. I think Street Brawl is a great place to test out ideas like this. I think they had an item in Street Brawl that, like, you got hit by a hard CC and you instantly got cleansed of it for a certain amount of time and became unstoppable for a little bit. This is pretty cool. I don't know how necessary it is for the meta, but I do think it'll be pretty cool into teams that are, like, spamming you with stuff, but it's not really that good to buy Unstoppable into the team, right? Like, it's a team with, like, a Graves and a Wraith that keep chain silencing you and a Celeste that does the same, but you're not, like, getting Lash ulted, and you're not having to fight your way through a Dynamo ult or a Billy ult. Anyways, that's the items. Active reload fire rate buff. That's fine. Opening rounds. That's like 3 changes. Weapon damage reduced. Yeah, okay. 45% extra damage is now down to 30% extra damage. Now upgrades from high velocity rounds, including its stats. And the spirit power got nerfed from 10 to 7. All right, well, this puts a damper on my Mirage build, but opening rounds was really, really strong. This item was built on a lot of characters right now because for 1,600 souls, it was really worthwhile. This does make me think that, funny enough, Warden is going to be a lot happier with this item because Warden likes high velocity rounds because their gun's fire rate is, well, not their fire rate, sorry, their bullet velocity is so low by default. This is pretty cool. Overall, it's an okay change. I think the nerf is pretty warranted. I saw opening rounds on a lot of builds and a lot of characters, and just like a 15% nerf to the bonus damage, slight nerf to the spirit power, but you gain all the bonuses that high velocity rounds already had, which I believe had a tiny bit of fire rate on it. That's pretty cool. It is a nerf, but I think it's an okay nerf that isn't too heavy-handed. Split shot. All right. 6 to 5 stacks of bonus damage, 10% down to 8% per stack, 24 seconds down to 27. So Viper and Graves were performing too well with split shot, and they decided to give them the nerf hammer. Because that's what this is directed at. Because I don't know anyone else who buys this item other than maybe Gunpage, but she doesn't even buy it that often. Shadow Weave. What the hell? People bought this item? Oh, sorry. They will now. T4 down to T3. They nerfed the out of combat region and duration and ambush duration and cooldown and spot rate. Spot radius actually got a buff. Sorry. Spirit power got a nerf. The fire rate got a nerf. The melee. Okay. So they literally were like, okay, so no one wants this as a 6,400 soul item. Let's make it 3,200 souls, but let's like half all of the effects you get, or a little less than half all the effects you get, and see how people want it. I know there's been a couple of meme builds that use it. Like there's an Ivy build, I think, that was using Shadow Weave, and the whole idea was that you just kind of went to town with gun damage because your gun's high fire rate procced Tesla bullets so fast. That type of build will be happy to see this. I don't think the item's going to get bought that much. It might get bought by like Calico now. That's a definite possibility because it's now affordable for Calico, but we will see. Elkfire, slight buff to spirit power? Sure. Heroic Aura, slight cooldown and bullet resistance buff? Sure. Those items aren't that, like, overpowering at the moment, and a lot of supports aren't even buying them, so that seems okay. Blood Tribute now has 8% debuff resistance by default, but it so you go up to 43% debuff resistance total, probably. Or if their additive debuff resists work differently, it just goes straight up to 40%. Bit of a weird one. I think they're trying to make the base item less bad, so you don't have to have it active, but this is just like a weird change. It's kind of a do-nothing change. Spiritual Overflow. Ooh. No longer provides 15% spirit lifesteal, now provides 15% ability. So they took the 20% ability duration granted by the item, slapped it on as the default. They took the spirit lifesteal and slapped it on as the activated. They flip-flopped them, and then they flip-flopped the amount that you got from each of them, which is fine. Spiritual Overflow is a really powerful late-game item. I don't think that taking away the spirit lifesteal innately is a bad thing for the item. I think it might make it a tiny bit worse, but someone like Seven, who was buying this anyways, is probably like, oh, hell yeah, 15% ability duration by default? I can rush into this and skip superior duration now. But, you know, we'll see. Frenzy, that's a lot of changes. Oh, good lord. No longer grants bonuses below 50. No longer grants spirit resistance. No longer grants movement speed. So this was like half of the item, so they just ripped away half the item. Now grants 160 health. Now grants 15% fire rate. You now get 1.5 meters move speed higher on low HP. Low HP grants 30% debuff resistances. That seems terrible. And the low HP fire rate went up by another 15%. Low HP bonus is now given for a duration and has a cooldown. Whenever you're below the 50% threshold, that lasts for 10 seconds. That's a 16th. So they're just kind of moderately reworking it to be anti-bullet, anti-debuff, it seems. But mostly about giving you massive fire rate at low HP. But it only lasts for 10 seconds and has a 16-second cooldown. This will be really good for a character like Billy, who kind of built this item sometimes. Or maybe a character like... I actually don't know. I don't know who else I could think of. This sounds like they're turning it into a better Billy item, basically, to where Billy goes in, he gets a little low early, and he doesn't care because he's Billy and he'll regen with his melees. And overall, he now just gets a better fire rate buff from the item. That seems like an okay rework. I feel like Frenzy's still going to kind of suck, but feel free to prove me wrong, right? Resto Locket, my beloved, you got a slight nerf. We're sad to see it happen, but Resto Locket got a slight nerf. So max stacks increase from 20 to 25, and you only heal 16 per stack instead of 20. And now max stamina restoration happens at 25 stacks. That's, like, fine. A very slight return fire buff. Bullet resistance increased from 8 to 10, and bullet damage returned increased from 60 to 65. Whatever. We'll see if it does anything. I don't think many people are buying this item. Reactive barrier changes. I'm assuming this is in response to there being a new tier 4 upgrade. No longer gives the spirit resist. Now triggers off silence as well, but the cooldown went up and the barrier scaling got reduced, and it no longer gives back stamina. So they're slightly nerfing reactive barrier because it has an upgrade now, I think. That seems to be the gist of it. To where if you... this will probably be the same as kind of like debuff reducer, but better, where like you can buy it for a 1600 green item early if you want the upgrade later, but it's just not as good as it used to be, you know? It'll be better than debuff reducer, that's for sure, but it's not that... I don't think it's going to be that crazy good. Trophy Collector moved from T3 item to T2. Oh no. Souls per stack reduced from 25 to 18. Out of combat regen from 4 to 2. Ability range reduced from 1 to 0.75. And it gives no HP at all. Okay, so this is now a pure support item that is definitely worse again. But because it only costs 1,600 souls, supports will absolutely be buying this early game almost every single game. I can't imagine a game where supports aren't wanting to buy this, because getting 18 souls per minute for free is more than 0 souls per minute for free, and the ability range per stack going down a tiny bit is whatever. This means that in place of 16% range, it'll be 12% range, which is more akin to how a T2 works. Will every support buy this? No, but I can absolutely see Sinclair and Page just slapping this into the build. Get this. Get Guardian Ward. Get some other 1600 green item. They'll be good to go. The loss of the HP per stack is a little sad, but oh well. Slight Dispel Magic nerf. Whatever. Veilwalker now upgrades from sprint boots. Like the default T1 sprint boots? That's weird. So that means you keep the movement speed and the slow resist from them. Oh wait, they don't have slow resist, sorry. Slow resist comes in on enduring speed. My bad. And a bonus health nerf. So just a very, very slight adjustment to Veilwalker, probably trying to make it more usable. I don't think it'll be more usable. Bullet Resil and Spirit Resil now grant 3 out of combat region apiece. That's whatever. Counterspell, very slight nerf. Bonus health down by 25, and it has a cooldown of 23 instead of 20 seconds. That's fine. Slight Rescue Beam buff, 32 meters up to 35. Colossus no longer grants the health. Welp, egg on my face. I should have finished reading the patch notes before I talked about the percentages from the beginning being better. But it's 10% extra health. I think they're trying to get away from flat health on as many items and trying to make it so that the tankier characters who level up and get more HP by leveling feel better than everyone can buy tanky items by default. Like, this change makes it so that an Abrams buying this feels a lot better than a Mina buying this, right? Leech no longer nerfs the bonus health you get. It's the sum of the two components. That's okay. 40 extra health on Leech is nice. Oh, there it is. It happened. It happened. Oh my goodness. Inhibitor is no longer the greatest green item ever for gun builds. Weapon damage reduced from 25% to 10%. This item will still be wonderful, and on pure gun carries, or mostly gun carries, like Haze, Inhibitor is probably something you'll go over Toxic Bullets in general, but this is definitely much worse, and like, it's a big adjustment. Like a Venator, for example, a character who doesn't build Spirit at all, they almost never want to build Toxic Bullets because Toxic Bullets scales a little bit off of Spirit power, enough that you want to build a couple of Spirit items to go with it. So they almost exclusively bought Inhibitor as their anti-heal item because it synergized so well with the grenade granting anti-heal. With that weapon damage going down, Venator just got nerfed with this. And I believe that the Ricochet gun builds that Haze, Geist, and Wraith use will probably drop Inhibitor in exchange for Toxic Bullets most of the time now, because that's a big change. I don't think that Mirage will stop using Inhibitor because Mirage liked it to stack with the debuff from the Scarab, but I think this is a big change, and I think this is a really, really sizable nerf to Inhibitor. Moving on, let's see. Suppressor no longer grants 50 bonus health, but instead grants 8 bullet resist. This makes sense and is kind of in tune with how it's coded as an item. It's an anti-gun item. Give it bullet resist. That's fine. Cold Front now goes 1.5 meters higher in the air. Okay. Spirit Snatch got a slight buff. 15 up to 20 power. Calico is happy. Billy is happy. Arctic Blast damage height increased from 3.5 to 5 meters. Exact same as Cold Front, huh? Egg on my face. I misread Scourge and I'm cutting it out so I can talk about it properly. This is a slight nerf to Scourge. It's now a much tankier item. This item was seeing play on characters like Celeste because it was just good with how they operated, and sometimes Calico. So it's no longer granting any cooldown reduction at all, and it is now just granting debuff resistance. That's fine. They want it to be a tank item for tanks to do extra damage in an AoE around themselves and make themselves tankier. It's fine. Spirit Burn got a slight buff. Very small. That's a slight buff, and we love to see it. It's also very small because of how Spirit Burn works. Because it's so many small ticks over time, a small buff like this actually amounts to a lot more damage overall. Oh, goodness gracious. This is a pile of lifesteal adjustments. Seems like lifesteal is getting nerfed across the board. Lifesteal reduced from 18 to 14 on active reload, 16 to 13 on both bullet and spirit lifesteal, Spirit Shredder bullets goes down to 10 from 12. Spirit Rend goes from 12 to 10. I said it reversed. It's the same thing. They both lost 2% Spirit Lifesteal. Fury Trance got nerfed by 4%. Infuser lost 3% by default and 10% when it's active. Leech lost 5%, I'm assuming on each of the types of lifesteal, because I believe it was 30% for each before this. Vamp Burst went down by 3 by default and lost 10% at the top end activation. 10 to 8 on Mystic Reverb, a little sad for Apollo enjoyers like myself, and also like Geist Spirit enjoyers and Lash enjoyers, because this was just kind of a nice bonus to have, but it makes sense. The Imbued Lifesteal also went down by 5%, which is fine. Spiritual Overflow Lifesteal reduced from 20 to 16. So it's part of a global adjustment on top of the prior rework. Interesting. So it is a little worse. And Lady Geist got a slight nerf, 80 to 75% on Life Drain, and Abram's Siphon Life went from 80-40 to 70-35. Just some very slight nerfs across the board. I think they've realized that lifesteal is, in fact, king and queen in this game, and as a result, it is just something that a lot of people are buying on every single character, regardless of how good or bad it is. I think they're trying to scale back how strong it is, which I'm a big fan of. I think people are way too survivable right now between big HP pools and big lifesteal amounts, and so that sometimes if a tanky target gets ahead, they become nigh impossible to take out no matter what. We are on to the heroes changes. Abrams, we fixed the speed coming out of canceling a shoulder charge being too high. There was some weird tech where if you canceled a shoulder charge after hitting someone, you would zip away from them at super high speeds. They're apparently just fixing that, which makes sense. Apollo, they 15 damage at base. I want to point out this is still high enough to trigger Mystic Burst at base, and that is all we care about. It is still a 15 damage nerf to Apollo across the board, though. We're not mad. It's fine. Apollo getting small nerfs is fine. Billy, Rising Ram Tier 3 also reduces cooldown. Slight Billy buff. Celeste, bullet cycle time reduced. I'm assuming this means that they fire faster? I'm not a Celeste knower, and I don't quite know what bullet cycle time means. It sounds like a good thing, so I'm going to assume it's a good thing. Shining Wonder got some buffs. Didn't they just nerf these exact numbers like last patch? Okay. Anyways, moving on. Fixed a bug that allowed you to bring Ern through a doorway. No! Our cheese! The doorman cheese! Oh well. Rend T3 now increases melee scaling, and Bloodsent T3 went from 10... So, wait, they buffed Drifter? Curb Stomper Extraordinaire got buffed? I'm assuming it's because they're not performing at, like, Internus levels, which makes sense. I don't think that they see much play up there. Just because they curb stomp at, like, you know, Initiate doesn't mean that they should not get buffed when they need it. Dynamo got nerfed. And, hey, we got a second nerf on Quantum Entanglement. Wahoo. Should it be nerfed more? Probably. Quantum Entanglement is such a good jail-free card right now. But nerfs are nerfs. This is good. Dynamo is very prevalent and very strong. Oh my god, we can slide while bullet dancing again. That's actually pretty crazy. Another meter of base range, 30% evasion in the base ability, changed T2 from 10% fire rate and 45-second cooldown to 10% fire rate and 3-meter move speed. So they're making you move faster earlier, but they're putting the cooldown later, but that's a lot more cooldown. 75 seconds of cooldown off. Sorry, I just hit my desk. And 75 seconds of cooldown is a lot of cooldown. Haze buffs, I guess. Very weird. Alright, Holiday fixed Rising Ram interrupting Lasso. Alright. Spirit Lasso T1, more damage. Spirit Lasso T3, more cooldown. I think Holiday will need more than that to see more play, but that's fine. Infernus! Oh my goodness, they're finally getting nerfed. Flame Dash DPS Spirit scaling reduced from 10 to 0.7. Yeah. Flame Dash damage was pretty insane and made Infernus really obnoxious. I'm actually pretty sure that I'm editing a Infernus video at the moment, so that's going to come out with Old Infernus. You get to enjoy Old Infernus and how much Flame Dash does to objectives. Because, oh my goodness, was it crazy how much Flame Dash did to objectives. Halving it, probably still not enough, but it's nice to see. An okay nerf to Infernus, and then a good nerf to Infernus. We take it. Infernus is really good right now. McGinnis, mini turrets. So you're not punished for using turrets early by giving the enemy team a lot of money off them, it seems. Fix mini turrets being locked on objectives when they were invulnerable. Good change, good change. And Spectre duration went up by a half second by default. That's good. We like that. Very slight nerf to Mina. Nox Nostra DPS overall reduced by 6%. I get it. Nox Nostra is quite strong at the moment. It is a really big part of Mina's kit. That is fair and fine. Mirage, slight base health regen to make them a little less annoying in lane, I'm assuming. And then Scarab's duration. Alright, so you're buying duration a bit earlier for Fire Scarabs. This is fine. This is an okay nerf to Mirage. I think that nerfing Fire Scarabs is probably the easiest ability to nerf on them right now. If you nerf Mark, you take away their ability to fight late game. If you nerf Scarabs, you make it so that they have to work harder to get to late game. I think this is okay. Bow and Krill, slight buff. Burrow move speed went up. Paige got a stamina. Paige got a stamina? Paige got a stamina. That's shocking. As a Paige enjoyer, this is crazy. Dash speed reduced to slow bucket. I'm assuming this is a bracket of some sort that maybe didn't get, doesn't make sense to people not on the dev team, but I don't know. I'm assuming this means that their dash speed is a little bit slower because they have a third stamina by default. Sure, yeah, that means you don't have to buy stamina anymore on Paige if you're like me and you die a lot on 2-stam characters. Plot armor, so the shield got its cooldown reduced by 2 seconds, that's fine, and bookworm recharge timer reduced by a second. Paige nerfs. Wait, no, hang on. Paige buffs. Sorry, I'm just like, I'm shocked. I think Paige is really good right now, so it's kind of crazy that they're getting buffed. Paradox, slight buff to kinetic carbine. Time Wall got a slight weapon damage increase and now provides... Kinetic Carbine now provides air dash distance? That's fine. I mean, you kind of already went like Stam Mastery so that you could do that on Paradox. At least I went Stam Mastery. So this is pretty cool. This means I don't have to update my guide because Paradox didn't get changed that much. Pocket. Enchanter's Satchel Spirit Scaling increased and Affliction's cooldown reduced. I don't have to change my pocket guide that much either. Wahoo! These are very small changes for both of these characters. A slight buff to Paradox, probably to make Kinetic Carbine and Time Wall seem more appealing. And a very slight buff to Pocket because they nerfed their gun stuff to make them more appealing as a spirit carry. That's pretty cool. Fixed a bug with nap time that allows you to attack while casting it. And pillow toss... Oh god, the pillows filled with bricks are coming. Oh lordy, they're coming. Okay, Shiv, alt fire knockback reduced by 10%. Shivs will no longer be able to scuttle around the map spamming right-click slides anymore. I mean, they will, it'll just be worse. Serrated Knives spirit scaling reduced a little bit. And spirit scaling reduced on the T3 reduced a little bit as well. These are seemingly minor nerfs, but they add up to a lot more than you'd think. So the number changing by this little will actually add up to basically whole numbers worth of difference. Probably, possibly like, I don't think it would add up to like 100 damage less at late game, but it'd probably add up to like 50 damage less in the mid to late game. Silver, fixed tail wrap applying minus, it's a fix, we like fists. Fixes. And Slam Fire got reduced current health is damage by a little bit, that's fine. Silver Slam Fire is the best part of their kit, and since their last buff, they feel a little bit better. So this is fine. Venator, he eats shit in the curb, I guess. Gut shot and gut shot. Nerf and nerf. That's pretty rough, considering Inhibitor, one of their core items at the moment, also just got nerfed. It's not core, it's just most builds used Inhibitor in the mid to late game on Venator, so they're getting hit twice over. Victor, Aura of Suffering, more damage. Great. Shocking Reanimation T3, even more cooldown. I don't think Victor's coming back, but it is cool to see that they're still trying to make him work better. Viscous, Goo Ball lockout period from being affected again, reduced from 1.35 to 1.2. Previous bug, which increased debuffs. Oh! So you used to be able to dribble people with Goo Ball. So to where they would be infinitely stunned and just die. And that's why they nerfed the lockout period a little bit. Because otherwise you would just always get dribbled by a Goo Ball and die. So that's pretty cool. And supposedly they've also fixed various locations where Splatter didn't bounce. I don't think this is going to make Viscous show up anymore in your games, but it's just nice to see. Viper nerfs, potentially. Lethal Venom cooldown increase. Lethal Venom in T2 gives the cooldown back. So you have to level it to T2 to make it not have a terrible cooldown, but you already did that anyways. Lethal Venom cast range reduced, but it now scales with boons. That's really weird. That's a really weird change right here. I guess they want Lethal Venom to, like, scale as the game goes on and be harder to use early. That's my assumption. I'm assuming it just feels bad to most people early game, where they eat a Lethal Venom from Viper and they just kind of die. I get it. Viper early game is really inconsistent and feels weird to die to. Also, they refixed armor-piercing rounds doing damage through Petrify. Cool. I'm pretty sure it wasn't supposed to do that anyways, so sure. That's a handful of Street Brawl changes, but we don't talk about Street Brawl changes that much on the channel. It's cool that stuff's getting nerfed, it seems. Stuff seems to be getting nerfed a lot, actually. But that's not that big a deal. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned about all the patch notes and stuff. This was a lot of yapping, but sometimes it helps people to have someone talk through the patch notes and explain their thinking about it. It helped me when I was playing lots of other games or was new to games, so I hope it helps you, dear viewer. Either way, thanks for watching. Y'all are cool and I appreciate you, and I hope to catch you in the next one.